I'm on a car launch. I don't do these much anymore. It's rather nice. Someone's laid on a circuit and a rather beautiful new Aston Martin. The circuit's Monteblanco in Spain, so it's a bit warmer than back in the UK. And the car is the Aston Martin Vantage. No longer the V8 Vantage these days, just the Vantage. Such is the way with these things. The world's moving on rather quickly. This is the entry-level Aston Martin. It has 665 horsepower, 590 foot-pounds of torque, yes, and it weighs dry about 600 kilograms, but wet it's probably 1700. It's not a track car, but to sort of get your head around the performance of it, you've sort of got to go to a track. So I will go and drive it on the road after this. First impressions, it's fast. The AMG Hot V is now, you know, knocking on for 700 horsepower. It's very, very fast car. I jumped in this about 15 minutes ago and I wasn't that impressed straight away. And I'll tell you why. I had the car quite a lot of damping at the rear, so it was on a firm setting. And I found the breakaway of the car a bit tricky. When it wanted to snap sideways, I wasn't liking the way that it wanted steering input. I couldn't get it quite right. It felt that the ride was choppy. It was finding bumps and ruts. So I then changed the suspension and I started to drive the car differently. I was overdriving the car. Sorry, Aston Martin. I was putting too much. I was braking too late. I was asking too much of the car. I'm being a thug. You've just got to come back from it a bit, smooth your inputs, and then I think it starts to make a lot more sense. But it's not a track car. It's not a track car. I'm sure there'll be a funky version. But right now, the level of performance for an ordinary entry-level Aston Martin is unprecedented. Let's talk you through how it works then. So we've got a bespoke Michelin tyre. It's a Pilot Sport 5 or S5 they call it. It does a really good job on a circuit, given the amount of energy going through it here. It's easy to just overcommit to a corner. So I've got a fast right-hander here now. I was just piling into it fast. If I just take a bit of speed off, turn the car, then I have got a bit of howly understeer, but nothing like what I had before. You can't just have these things swapping ends and wanting to be drift cars. It's not sensible. Steering, there's lots of different sort of parameters. I'm in the heaviest. It's fine, and it's fine. It's as good as it gets really with electric power steering these days, isn't it? It's just. I've spent a lot of time driving hydraulically power-assisted steering cars recently. They're just nicer than these. But in terms of its speed and how I can guide the car, it's good. It's good enough. But electric steering has never really worked with it. Not in the way we want it to. Brakes, powerful, good. I've got no problems. This is quite a heavy car. We're piling down the straight at 150 miles an hour and it's stopping well every time. Pedal feel is good. Grip is, once you get the car set into a corner, it builds a lot of grip. But what you have to do is make sure that you don't overcommit on the front axle. If you throw the car in too late and think it'll turn, it probably won't, which is fair enough. It's heavy. Once you then apply the power, you get a nice neutral moment, and then you can start to get into a bit of oversteer. You know, that sort of comes in like that. Let's see, there you go. There gets better, wasn't it? And the correction is more natural now because I'm not asking so much of it. Gear shifts are good and fast. This is the latest ZF 8-speed gearbox. And the suite of electronics. Aston's really rightly proud of the fact this is probably the first of their products that's got the latest of everything on it. There's a new Bosch chassis brain that manages the differential and the damping and everything else. I forget its name. We'll get Simon Newton, who's developed this car, to talk about it later on in the video. But it's the first time that Aston's had the latest Michelin tyre, the latest Bosch software. In the automotive sweet shop, that's the stuff you really want. And it shows, and this is, you know, me trying to be balanced, that sometimes Mr. Stroll I find a bit difficult. But he's giving his engineers the best toys to make fast cars, and fair play to him. None of it's cheap. Because normally you expect Porsche and Ferrari to have all that stuff with, and this time it's Aston Martin. So we give it a prod. Quite lively. You've got so much torque. Let's try this one here. Not lively. She's still quite lively. There's an argument that with this much power and torque, it should really be four-wheel drive. Aston is insistent it doesn't need to be, but I have to say it is traction limited here on the circuit. On the road, you probably wouldn't know so much. Sneeze. Whoa. Right, I'm going to try that slide again because that last one was shit. For enjoying it is surprisingly narrow. When you're sliding it around, it just takes a bit of concentration because it's got a lot of oversteer on lift off. You see that? I can back it into the corner a bit like a 911. So here we go, back it in. The rear rotates straight away. I've got to manage that. Now watch the transition. It comes very quickly because it's so short in the wheelbase. I mean, we've asked a lot of these rears. Michelin do make pretty clever tyre these days. Woo! We should thank the Lord that we have got cars like this thing. It's a thug. It's a hot rod, is what it is. And maybe that's what Aston Martins always were. It's a thug in a suit, isn't it? It's a thug in a suit. The magic of television, I'm now on a road. So, circuit, I struggle with it a bit, if I'm honest with you. So let's get on the road. It's a road car. I don't think we should judge it on a circuit. So first things first, we've got a lot of extra width, 30 odd mil wider. On the rear bodywork, so it's a wide car on the road. So I'm going to do what everyone should do and set the mirror on that right hand side so I can see the white line. So I'm driving to the white line on the right hand side. This road is as good, it's a sort of good between an A and a B road in the UK. Surface is good. So already driving here, the ride is firm on the road. I'm in the softest dampers. I know you can't make cars that just work on UK roads because our surfaces are so poor. But I think this will be quite busy on a UK road. Powertrain just feels lovely on this sort of width of road, and it's quite twisty. Kicks down nice and quick. It's a fast car as well. Good Lord, it is fast. Steering suddenly feels really, really helpful and quick and alive. Whereas on the circuit, I was over driving the car and just thinking I was understeering a bit. Of course, at road speeds, I'm nowhere near the limit of the front tyre, so I'm not a knob, and suddenly it feels nice and alive. It's got pops and bangs and farts, and it's just immensely fast. It feels better matched front to rear as well. On the circuit, the back of the car was losing damping, but the front of the car felt okay. Gear shifts are good in the manual mode. Yeah, there are very few roads in the UK that are as smooth as this. This is not a helpful exercise and help me understand it in the UK. So, I'm going to summarise it like this. I think Aston Martin's made a brave decision with this car, and it's on the right track. It's given us a shed load more power. We're right in sort of 911 turbo levels of performance once you've got the traction. And for the money, I know it seems steep at a base of around 165. It's a lot more performance than the outgoing car. So this isn't a Carrera rival, this is a 911 turbo rival now. And the Aston Martin badge, I think, can support that. The inside of the car is now different gravy. This cabin is of such high quality. It's, pretty much DB12 inside. It's not all ergonomically brilliant, but just in terms of the way it looks and feels and smells, it's night and day compared to the old car. It really is. And frankly, this is where you spend your time when you're driving it. From the outside, people are admiring you because it's a truly beautiful sculpted quasi 177 looking Aston Martin. Those wide arches, they give the perfect aesthetic. They're going to be a problem if you want to hack around B roads, but frankly, that's not where these cars are going to be used. They're going to be in California, where it's going to look magnificent. So you've got a shitload of performance. You've got a great interior, great cabin, and I think you've got a chassis that's too stiff for the UK, is my honest summary. I wish there was a bumpy road button like there is in a Ferrari where I could just slacken everything off and I could get some more compliance, but you haven't got that. I don't think it's going to be a deal breaker in the UK, but just go and drive one before you buy one, because it is quite stiff. And actually, that's the right thing for Aston Martin. It shouldn't be making cars that are brilliant on British B roads, because I'm not sure that's what the rest of the world wants. That's my honest answer. I'd like them to, because I'm a nerd and I love cars that breathe a bit more and are softer, but that's not the route they've gone down. It's just effing fast, okay? Like fast with a capital feck. Really fast car, sounds fantastic. It's got loads of excitement, but maybe it's lost some of the sort of plushness around the chassis that the last one had. And in my experience, plushness keeps nerds happy, but doesn't sell cars. Big headline power figures do. So yeah, they've been brave, and I commend them for doing so. But this road, they've chosen this route carefully. There's not many bumps here. It's a hot rod. That's what it is. It's an Aston Martin hot rod. You know, it's wide at the back. It's massively fast. It makes loads of noise. It's a hot rod. I think it sort of works. I mean, I've got to have my realistic hat on now. It's not as supple as I would necessarily want it to be. You know, even on this smooth road, I can feel a bit of choppiness in the damping. But that's not gonna turn the dial for Aston Martin. If it makes something that breathes like a Lotus Elise, I'm finding myself a bit confused actually, because I didn't think it was especially good on the track, that it was a handful. And on a very smooth road, it's great, but I suspect, you know, it's wide and it's stiffer than I want it to be. He says, spluttering away. But then I love the cabin, and I love the way it looks, and I love how fast it is. And in my experience, those last three things matter far more for people that are going to buy this car. For all the loveliness of this new dashboard, and it does look and feel expensive, it's great. The readout's too small. I mean, I can't really see the numbers. I've got to that age when I have to wear my readers. So actually, every time you do a sort of gear change, you've got to go, right, get my readers out. Like that, there's my readers. And then I'll go, yeah, I'm in sixth. Nice. There we go. Apparently they're going to change some of that for the actual production cars. These are pre-pods, they're going to have a bigger readout. And I'm being a bit silly, but actually it looks lovely. I quite like them. I think I'd quite like them. I'm a big believer that these are the cars that Aston Martin should be building. I really am. You know, it's exactly what it should be building. Big front-engine GT with loaded performance. It's ideal. I'm here with Simon Newton, who's Director of Vehicle Performance for Aston Martin, across all model ranges.
That's correct.
He did work experience with me with Autocar. Why is it everyone that ever did work experience with me with Autocar has become really successful and I'm still a tit? You'll see here that the bonnet is open. That is not an aero device or a panel gap issue. We're going to show you the engine. Let's start with the engine. Okay. The Hot V AMG V8. No one hides the fact that it's come from AMG. It's a thing to celebrate, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you've got massive power now. The headline figures for this thing blow my mind. Please tell me what they are.
Yeah, so it's 665 PS or 656 brake horsepower,
yeah,
and 800 Newton meters. So that's 30% up on power, 15% up on torque compared to the previous generation.
So did you just sit down as a team and go, right, this is what AMG will give us, or this is what we can get out of the engine. We're going to make it work with the rest of the package, or did the power creep up as development started?
No, we always had a target. We had free range with AMG, our technology partners, to select the hardware to go into combination, we were not just looking for absolute numbers, though we had a minimum we wanted. What we were looking for, this sweet spot, a good balance between power, torque, and importantly for us, responsiveness.
Yeah. So that's why actually the 707, that has got a bit of a lag, hasn't it? Is it got different turbochargers or not?
It has different turbochargers and it suits that application perfectly, but it wasn't responsive enough for the smaller chassis.
In terms of where it sits in the car, I mean, I've always been amazed at how far back you got it in the chassis. That's all the same as before, is it?
It is, yeah. We consider it front mid-engined.
Yeah, well it is, isn't it? Look at it.
Net result of that is 50-50 weight distribution, so perfectly balanced.
Gearbox is the newest ZF.
It's the latest evolution of ZF 8-speed.
Yeah.
We like the ratios as we had them in Vantage, so we've preserved them, but we sped up the way we get through the gears by shortening the final drive, so we're 5% shorter in that area.
So have you lost some top speed?
No, we're now up to 202 more power.
Just 202?
Yeah.
That's all you need, isn't it, really? Right, we'll shut that. I always like that nostril thing there. I mean, it's a profoundly different looking car.
It is,
It's got a lot more muscularity at the back. Front axle width, is that the same or is it wider again?
Slightly wider at the front, more significantly at the back. The car overall is 30% wider on the body sides, though actually no wider overall due to the wing mirror design. That's a little sleeker, pulls them in. But track width on the rear up 15 mil, helps with the dynamics and obviously complements the styling. The front of the car, as you say, is quite different.
Yeah.
But not only is it designed, it is functional. So we insisted upon a greater amount of flow through the grills. The aperture's up, I think, about 39% to get 29% more flow in. And because of the way we stacked all the coolers that this engine needs, we now got 51% more airflow over coolers to keep all that power torque at a safe ambient temperature in track conditions.
So how much fluid does this baby carry? If it's got so many coolers, I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah.
Is it a lot? It must be a fair amount.
I don't know if I'm happy to say, but I don't know that number.
He's a fluid expert. I mean, I think it looks fantastic. I know it's all subjective, but we've got a Mini 177 in terms of how wide it is at the back compared to the front. It's pretty aggressive. I mean, in terms of setting the chassis up, does it cause problems having so much width at the rear compared to the front or not?
No, not at all. In fact, we helped push that working hand in hand with styling. We needed the footprint, we needed the rubber. So the wheels have gone up in diameter to 21.
Yeah.
That helps with brake cooling, but not particularly a dynamic relevant factor. What is important is the width of the tyres. So up to 275 on the front and 325 on the rear.
And this is the stuff that is really good for Aston Martin. This is a bespoke tyre for you from Michelin.
Yeah,
not everyone gets to do that.
That's a key point. We were lucky. We worked hand in hand with Michelin. Spent a lot of time getting a tyre which is uniquely, we think, very capable laterally. It's got lots of grip, but we worked hard to get the on-centre connection as well, because sometimes those two things don't necessarily go well together. This tyre is bespoke to Vantage. It's interestingly the same size as the one we've put on DB12, which is also a Pilot Sport S5, but it's a different tune for this car particularly. Okay,
so don't mix them up. The back of the car is what everyone's talking about actually. It's not cartoonish, but it's a statement, isn't it? It's got real presence. How much wider rear track are we now?
15 mil. 15
mil. It's sizable. In terms of the geometry and the damper and spring, is it all completely new?
We've carried over the hard point, so the K and C strategy certainly on the back is the kinematics and compliance is the same on the back. The front is revised. We've done some work with bushes, and on the front particularly we've taken out some compliant elements. This all works very well with the new damping levels and improved structure of the car. It's all sort of coming together nice. Everything's been picked to be complementary. And
actually there is stiffening and strengthening, isn't there, in key parts of the chassis and the shell.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's not all about the global torsional stiffness, which is up, but more importantly, we try to put in cleverly engineered solutions around the suspension pickup points to increase what we call local stiffness, where the loads go into the shell, so that you can have this nice connection feel for the steering, clean response when you're asking the car to perform lateral manoeuvres, and it also helps with damping the ride inputs, because you've got this general sense of increased integrity.
So suspension, Bilstein damper.
Yeah, Bilstein DTX.
And that's the one everyone wants, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And you've also got Bosch's very clever chassis brain in there as well. What's that thing called?
Well, it's called an integrated vehicle controller.
Okay.
And the heart of that is a 6-axis accelerometer.
Which you
Thank you.
I mean, it's got the absolute shopping cart from the gods. You've got the Michelin bespoke tyre, you've got the Bosch brain, and you've got the Bilstein damper.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's underpinned by the structure, which is really the starting point.
Yeah, but it's a hell of a lot of power and torque.
It is, yes.
In a short little wheelbase.
Yeah, it certainly is fun.
It's a thug of a car. I think it's a very brave move, and taking the car from an entry level at sort of 500-ish horsepower and smashing it through that ceiling. That's what punters want, isn't it, I think?
It is. The previous generation cars were fantastic in that sort of short car, good connection, nice fluidity to it. We wanted to preserve all that, but we needed to take the overall performance envelope much further.
Yeah.
And it can't clearly be just about the powertrain. You need all these complementary systems to make it work as a whole.
Yeah. Thank you very much, boss. That was a lovely, lovely nerd out. Cheers.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Cheers.